Hi, how are you? This is Sandstorm here, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4. In today's episode, we're going to be doing another formable nation, the European Union, or more specifically, the European Coal and Steel Community, which were the first 6 nations to begin in the European Union. This formal nation requires all of the land of the 6 nations to be owned by one of the 6, which are Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. And once you form the nation, you have to be democratic and you will get cores on all the territory. We're playing with all DLC today, up to and including Battle for the Bosporus, and we have no mods enabled. So let's start a new single player game, 1936 scenario. And today we'll be playing as Germany. They're probably the easiest nation to form the European Union as quick as possible. We'll be using regular difficulty, historical AI focuses, and no Iron Man mode. Now that we have loaded in, let's begin setting up our country as Germany. Our first maneuver is going to be the classic Sandstorm French pair drop, so we're going to need to research paratroopers as soon as possible, along with probably the 1918 weapons and equipment up here, with the mass assault doctrine, and we'll go with electronic mechanical engineering. The research isn't too important, but it helps to get little buffs for your country, making it ever so slightly easier for you to win your wars in the beginning just a little bit faster. Civilian factories, we're going to build some more civilian factories and some more military factories here. And for military factories, we want to make sure we have plenty on infantry equipment and at least 5 here on fighters. We don't need to produce tactical bombers. And we'll just assign the rest of our factories to produce more infantry equipment. For our navy, like usual, we're going to create a death stack and just merge them all into one fleet, which we'll deploy all our ships in the naval tab into. And we'll set one of our submarine lines to produce for the rest of the game. For our national focus, we need to make sure we don't do Rhineland, because the only way for Germany to go democratic is down this branch on the very right of the focus tree, which is mutually exclusive with the Rhineland branch. So we'll start off doing army innovations, which will give us some extra army experience to make a new template if we need to. We have unassigned divisions. Let's make a new army. Put the infantry in one army and take the tanks over here and swap 3 infantry back, so that these are kind of our worst divisions that we can change into paratroopers when we have researched the technology. We'll set them on a fallback line in the airport where we're going to pair drop from. And for the main army, we'll just put it along the French border. Insufficient resources, we can trade our factory onto rubber and don't need to import any more tungsten. We start with an unneeded trade of tungsten. If you're not producing too much artillery in the beginning of the game, it can be helpful to cancel this from Sweden. I believe it's just set up for historical purposes, and it helps us free up a factory which we can trade for rubber. Otherwise, I think we are ready to unpause and begin. Our first checkpoint here is 50 political power, at which we can begin Oracle justification on France. Our focus has just been completed. We'll go next with the 4-year plan. Now that we have our extra army experience, we can create a new garrison division, which will be helpful later in today's playthrough, with 2 battalions of infantry. Set it down to low, and we'll rename the template to garrison. Save it. And we can start producing a lot of them. We've just completed our national focus. We also have enough political power to modify our government, but we need to save up as much political power as we can, because we're going to need to annex some puppets hastily in a little bit. So our next focus, I think, is going to be autarky. We completed our national focus and our garrison has been deployed. We have about 45 divisions. Our next focus here is going to be Hermann Göringwerk. We just completed our national focus. Our next one will be KDF Wagen. Gives us some extra civilian factories. And it is almost time for our war with France. So let's change all of the 6 reserved divisions here to paratroopers. I can delete their orders here and start setting up the classic Sandstorm French pair drop. Our war on France has been prepared. We are going to activate the paratrooper orders. Going to make sure our planes are put out, because this time, since half of our border is unprotected due to the demilitarized zone that we were not able to remilitarize. They're going to try and push, and that means they're going to put out their aircraft. So we have to put out our aircraft in Western Germany to secure air support for the pair drop. Now we're going to declare war on France. And now that we're at war with the major, we're going to justify on the Netherlands. But we're now over 25% world tension, meaning they're going to get guaranteed by the UK, who we will have to take out, even though they are not necessary for the European Union. So let's get the pair drop into France. The pair drop has just gone. France is thoroughly 100% capitulated. Let's unpause and get to the peace conference. And we have arrived at a peace conference with all of France in it. So normally we would like to puppet France on a small tile, or even in mainland France to retain their fleet. But this time, in the civil war, which we will have to go through to turn democratic to form the EU, our enemy in the civil war will get all the puppets while we will get all the annexed land. So we have to annex as much as possible before the civil war, and while we would normally have time to puppet and then annex France, we're just going to make it a lot easier and take all states, as we're not able to puppet France this time. Usually it's a good idea, but this is a special circumstance. So let's end the turn, and we've annexed all of France. We should now have a nice large stockpile of infantry equipment with which to train up some more garrison units, try and get us up to 70 or 80. So our next target here is going to be the UK and the Benelux region. We're going to do our invasion of the Benelux region and then invade the UK with our main army. So we'll set our 24 divisions up on the Dutch border with an offensive line straight into their capital and victory point rich area. We're also going to ask Italy for military access, as we will be performing the classic Sandstorm Order 66 since Italy is part of our formable EU nation. Set a garrison onto Italy with our garrison units and tell them to garrison everything they can. We're going to have plenty of units for this garrison. Once they accept our units, we'll start moving in. And we have some military factories. May as well put some more onto aircraft. Doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be playing this game fully out. Whatever you think you might need as Germany, you can add production onto. Same with dockyards, but it's usually a good idea to produce submarines and convoys for a lot of the game. Our justification on the Netherlands is now prepared. We're able to declare war as soon as possible, which we will do. Also have our planes out and our pair drop plane stationed over here for a pair drop of the UK whenever necessary. Also going to deploy all of our garrisons here as close as we can to the Italian border and set them onto the order to garrison Italy. I mean, the more the merrier. So now, once we unpause, we will be at war with the UK, since they will automatically join the war, since they were guaranteeing the Netherlands, meaning we will be at war with the major. So it is now time to justify another war goal on Luxembourg, who is one of the nations we need for our formable nation. And the Netherlands has capitulated before they could even call in all of the United Kingdom's dominions. So let's get prepared on the Luxembourg border. Not sure if they have any divisions, because I think right now, 1936, yeah, they have 0 divisions, so it's just a matter of walking into their nation. Our justification is complete on Luxembourg, meaning we will declare war instantly, and our focus has also completed. Can be helpful now to do some of these industrial focuses, especially extra research slot over here. Very helpful focus on the German focus tree. I would recommend doing it. And Luxembourg has capitulated. That was a very easy capitulation. Let's station our troops along the Belgian border. Our justification is complete on Belgium. We're going to declare war. And we will get our final justification on Albania, who Italy guarantees. Also, interesting things happen. Battle for the Bosporus. 100% world tension. Greece justifies on Albania. Not sure why, but I think one of those states is their core. Anyway, we don't need to worry about that because our justification is going to be far, far quicker. Just an interesting thing that I have noticed with the new DLC. Not sure if I like it or not, but it seems cool enough. Also, we can invite, I assume that's Italy, yeah, we can invite Italy to the faction, but we will not be doing that. If Italy doesn't have a lot of troops on your border, you can do one of two things here. You can justify directly on Italy, or you could also sign a non-aggression pact with them right before they're going to declare war, because that will, like, jank their troops around. Because they think that a non-aggression pact means that there will be no war between them, but non-aggression pacts are apparently nullified by guarantee calling to war. You could do more justifications if you're trying to increase your territory more, like to form the modern-day EU or something like that. The only territories we need in today's video, though, are the core 6 nations, including Italy, France, and the Benelux region with Germany. So if you want more land, just feel free to go and get some more land, or if it's going to take you a little bit more to justify more war goals, you can go and encircle London like we have done in other videos. Anyway, we're going to invade Belgium right now and then move on to the United Kingdom and eventually into Italy. And Belgium has capitulated. Let's set our main army up at one of these ports over here on the northern French coast. And we will soon initiate a paradrop from Calais with our 6 paratroopers. I think we can go into Dover, and they usually have a lot of other ports open in the early game, 36, very early 37. So we can probably get a nice paradrop along the coast into Portsmouth and along this port next to London. Our troops are now in position, so let's activate the paradrop. There should be hardly any British troops here, so we should be able to get the paradrop just fine. As soon as we get the first port, it does take a little bit of time to get our troops over the channel. So we'll just set them in on an order to go up all the way to Scotland until the UK capitulates. Our war goal on Albania is now complete, and there is still an Italian troop in Rome. So I'll attempt to justify on Italy and see if that troop will get out of Rome, get off the garrison, and go to the front line. And it looks like it did. Let's halt our justification and declare war on Albania. Capitulation status. Italy is 100% capitulated. They'll probably join the Allies, but that is no issue because the United Kingdom is just about to fall, and we will get a peace conference including them and all the nations we have conquered. And Italy has capitulated. Let's bring our transport plane down to the Italian peninsula so that we can get a paradrop into Albania to include them in the peace deal. It's not necessary, but it's nice to take up as much as we can. And Albania has capitulated as well. And the United Kingdom has capitulated. Just like France, we want to annex as much as possible. There's one issue though, we did not get a naval invasion to fight any of the British colonies over here in the British Raj, British Malay, or the Dutch East Indies. That's fine because we have now got all the convoys from Britain and France from capitulating them, and we have the political power we have saved up, meaning if we do this quickly enough before the German Civil War, we can annex some select few puppets. Again, just like France, we're going to annex all of the United Kingdom, take all states. We are going to do the same for Italy. And the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Albania. Now we've taken all the territory directly that we can. There's 3 puppets remaining. I'm only going to puppet 2 so we can do this quickly. The British Malaya isn't really worth all that much, and it's not worth puppeting usually. Although in a normal game, you would always want to puppet them because, I mean, why not? In this game, it's just, it's going to be a bit of an inconvenience because we might be at war with them the whole game if they're the puppet of one of the belligerents in the German Civil War. So let's end the turn with these 2 satellites. We have almost 600 political power, and it takes about 300 to annex each puppet. We have enough convoys to spread between them, so we'll just leave British Malaya as an independent Malaysia. Let's hit done. And the peace conference is over. We took 118 states. Many countries were annexed, and we puppeted the prize colonies of German Raj and German East Indies, leaving out only the Republic of Malaysia. Now let's get to work annexing these puppets as soon as we can so we can get into a German Civil War and form the EU. So we can check our puppet autonomy levels under the Manage Subjects tab on the main political tab of our nation. We have 749 freedom points for the German Raj and 750 freedom points for the German East Indies. We'll start off with the German Raj. They're slightly bigger and they have less manpower, I think. Yeah, only 29,000 as opposed to the German East Indies, 829,000. We can request garrison support from both these nations to get free manpower. Actually, not from the German Raj. The German East Indies will give us 800,000 manpower for free, which is most of their manpower. Nice bonus on top of what we've already gotten. Alright, let's start a lend-lease to the German Raj. Convoys are by far the quickest and easiest way, which is why it is helpful to capitulate the Allies because they give us almost 2,000 convoys. Let's send 1,100 over to the German Raj. That will give them minus 770 freedom points, and they only have 750, meaning they will be able to become annexed if we pay 300 political power after the lend-lease goes through. Now we can't do both of them at once. That would be helpful, but we don't quite have the political power yet, and we don't quite have enough convoys, so we'll do one after another. It only takes 30 days to do each one. You can check the status of the lend-lease once they accept under the recruit and deploy, and there it is, the lend-lease. You can tell how long it's going to take, 27 days, and it'll count down. Once it reaches 0, you can go into this tab over here, Manage Subjects, and click the Annex button right here. Our national focus has just completed, and since we are about to complete both of our annexations, we can start going down this branch over here to go democratic, starting with the Civil War in 70 days. Now in the Civil War, your troops will get split from one side to the other evenly, and we can disband all these garrison divisions and this army of paratroopers as well, so that we just have the default 30 divisions. And since our borders in the east haven't really changed, we will be able to use sort of default tactics if we hadn't taken any land at all, except that we'll have the factories in the United Kingdom and France as well to back us up, meaning we should have no problem winning the Civil War. Our lend-lease has just been received in full by the German Raj, meaning that we have over 300 political power, and they have no autonomy at all, meaning they can become annexed. Now, by the time our next lend-lease goes through on the German East Indies, we should have 300 political power, so let's start our lend-lease as soon as possible. 1,100 convoys again, and that's going to be minus 770 points there. As I mentioned earlier, they only have 750, meaning they will be able to become annexed as soon as they receive the lend-lease, just like the German Raj. Also, I'm going to restation our troops along the front line, or soon to be front line, right near Frankfurt here. And the rest of this army can just join up into that one, so we can have ease of management. The East Indies are now ready to be annexed. Let's go into the Manage Subjects tab and annex them. They're now part of our nation. Our national focus has just been completed. And before we click the event, I think it would be prudent just to disband the Axis so that nothing crazy happens. We are at 100% world tension. We don't want anyone joining our enemy's faction if we can help it. Anyway, let's select a new national focus. We can't continue down here because we have to be at peace. So we will have to go down and do some more of these economic focuses, which is not too bad. I think we could do with doing some coal liquidization. Let's click the event, and we now get the Civil War. Now, we can use conventional tactics for the Civil War like we did in our German Empire video, but we did do pretty well in the lottery. We got 2 tank divisions. We had 3, so we'd either get 1 or 2, and we got 13 infantry. So I'm going to assign the unassigned 24 just to hold the line here for a while, and we'll see if we can get our conventional encirclement along the Czech border. Let's assign a few commanders and we'll get started. Quick note, looks like our national focus got cancelled. I guess coal liquidization is not a good focus to do. We'll just choose another industrial focus over here, like Reichsautobahn. Alright, at this point we have finished up in the south, and many casualties have been taken for our enemy's side. We are now not aligned, meaning we can create a faction with Poland, which will jank up their troops so that they feel they have to recall half their army to the Polish border, which, if we really want to speedrun the Civil War as fast as possible, is a really neat thing to do, because it'll allow us just to push straight into Berlin as soon as possible. Let's call this the Sandstorm Alliance, and we will just wait for them to accept and withdraw their troops onto the Polish border. At some point, once Poland gets a lot of their troops along this border, they may feel like they want to get called in. At this point, they still have dangerous borders against the enemy, which they obviously do not, since the border is mostly empty and they have one division per tile basically, but they still feel reluctant to get called into the war. Once we do enough work over here in the west, we should be able to make them feel like they want to join the war, which will help it go even quicker. You can see already like half of their troops have left, so let's activate our orders here. Even though all our troops are not in position, we've got to use our advantageous position to attack as soon as possible. Let's move our planes up and maneuver into the Eastern German air zone. Our national focus is just completed, but the Civil War is almost done. So if we wait for 10 days, we might be able to get straight onto our next focus. And the Civil War is over. There was not any need to call it in Poland because we did it in about 80 days. I think that might be a new personal record, but if you don't manage to finish that quick, that is fine. We got really lucky with the tanks and everything. Also, our manpower is very bad, even though our conscription laws have not changed, and we got manpower from our former puppets. Not sure why this happens, but it always does seem to happen when we finish the Civil War. It always does seem to bounce back, though, once we form the European Union, because you get cores on basically all of Western Europe. So, speaking of which, let's go down the democratic path, secure the new state, 70-day focus, and let's unpause. Got the event. Former leadership has been captured. We want to get minus 5% popularity in fascism, because that will help us get more popularity for Zentrum, which is the Democratic Party. Monarchy Compromise requires 40% support for Zentrum, and I think if we do anti-communist raids and then ban communism, then we can get 40% support no problem. We just finished secure the new state and put on the re-establish free elections in the national focus. Our next one is going to be the Monarchy Compromise, which allows us to become democratic as our ruling party. And we already have 40% support for Zentrum from banning communism. And there we go, re-establish free elections. Let's go on to the Monarchy Compromise. And here we are, 10th of February, 1938. We have gotten the Monarchy Compromise, meaning we can now realize European unity. And we are the European Union. You can do this by February 1938 if you do everything as quickly as I did in the video and get a little bit lucky. But otherwise, you can usually generally do it by 1938 or 1939 if you do it the way I did. It's not exactly a very open path with the European Union because the democratic focus tree for Germany requires you to have caused less than 15% world tension to continue down and create a Central European Alliance, which is the main benefit of the focus tree, and then go to war with the Soviet Union. You can really only go down this side path here, which is pretty neat, with research slot and some other bonuses here. But I guess you could also technically go communist. You could ban fascism instead of communism and get a guy to support democracy to get up to 40% of Zentrum popularity. But I guess a communist revolutionary could be an interesting path to do the communist European Union. Might be a little more interesting to do it as someone with not such a restrictive focus tree for ideologies, or someone that starts democratic like France or maybe Italy to switch to democracy and not have it really affect your focus tree, since the Italian focus tree already sucks. Either way, we have a load of manpower, and I believe this is all our core now. Yeah, look at that core state. European Union, although it is kind of the European coal and steel society, is now the major power in Europe. It's taken out most of the major powers in Europe, aside from the Soviet Union, and we're not really going to have much of an issue doing the rest of the world in a world conquest, except that we are democratic. So if we need to justify war goals, we would, as I mentioned earlier, have to switch to communism. Either way, it is a neat thing to do, even if it is not super open to do as Germany. Either way, forming the European Union is a bit fun, even if it isn't the most open path after forming it. It's still something that you can do in 2 years. So I hope you did enjoy this episode. I'll see you in the next episode very shortly. But until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.